Good evening, Chicago. This is Jerry Vassilatos coming to you from Chicago Corner. Apologize for the late start tonight. We're having some technical difficulties. We did have Jamal Green scheduled to come in, and we're dealing with login issues. I figured it would be better to start the show than keep you all waiting. I'm hoping that he will be able to resolve the login issues to join us tonight. I'm even seeing that there's some freezing on my end. I hope this is going out clean. But we were going to have Jamal on tonight, or we hope that he will join us so that we can discuss our topic, which was the political feud that is ongoing with Mayor Lightfoot's office. Let's see if we can add this to the stream. There it is. This was going to be our topic of conversation tonight. And hopefully Jamal will be able to come in and discuss it with us. I'd rather go over the story when he's with us to discuss it with him. So in the meantime, until he can hopefully resolve the issues on his end, I figured that this might be an opportunity to field some questions from our viewing audience regarding the channel, regarding myself. I haven't really had a chance to share much about myself after I took on hosting for the show. And to be quite honest with these tough technical issues tonight, I am flying by the seat of my pants because I'm used to having a guest with me to discuss the news or whatever topics that we were presenting to our viewing audience on our Friday night show. Looking at the comments, looking at the live chat, I don't know that there's a whole lot to talk about right now, although I can share something that was related to my conversation with Jamal in regards to the city's attitude that I guess citizens or activists are not supposed to question what city council or our elected officials decree. This comes to us from Block Club Chicago, and it is kind of loosely related to the conversation I was going to have with Jamal regarding his experience with Maurice Cox, who is with the city's planning department. But this story comes from Ariel Perella Orelli from Block Club Chicago. Northwest Siders sue Alderman Gardner for blocking them on social media, saying he's violating First Amendment by silencing critics. The suit also claims that the city is well aware of the alderman's constitutional violations, but has done nothing about it. He can't decide who is allowed into a public forum where public issues are discussed, the plaintiff's attorney said. 6 residents of the 45th Ward are suing the area's alderman and the city itself for allegedly blocking them or deleting critical comments on his Facebook page. The federal class action look this up as I talk about it. Let's see if we can pop that screen up. There we go. And here's the article. Let's see if I can pop it up a little bit more so you guys can see it cleaner. No. That's what happens when you run the board by yourself. There we go. Let me reduce this so you guys can see what's going on as I continue the story. So the federal class action lawsuit filed Thursday in the Northern District of Illinois alleges Alderman Jim Gardner is violating the First Amendment by deleting comments or blocking people he disagrees with on his government page. In an effort to suppress dissent in this forum, Alderman Gardner routinely hides or deletes comments that criticize him or his policies, thereby making those comments invisible to the other constituents who are engaging in discussion on Alderman Gardner's Facebook page and preventing certain citizens from engaging in debate with other members of the community, the lawsuit states. The 6 plaintiffs are all critics of the alderman and have been blocked or had their comments removed from his Facebook page multiple times, ranging from the past 2 weeks to when Gardner was elected in 2019, according to the lawsuit. Gardner, who did not respond to requests for comment, uses his official aldermanic Facebook page to communicate to residents of his ward about public meetings, city hall news, budget updates, and community happenings. Everyone should be allowed to weigh in on these issues regardless of difference of opinion, the plaintiffs argue. Plaintiffs bring this lawsuit because Alderman Gardner uses his official page like it's a barbecue in his backyard, said Mark Weinberg, the attorney representing the plaintiffs. He can't decide who is allowed into a public forum where public issues are discussed. He uses his political power to silence voices he doesn't agree with politically. I thought this story, as it was reported tonight, was an interesting complement to what Jamal is dealing with the city and Planning and Development Commissioner Maurice Cox, which is what we wanted to talk about tonight, because Jamal had shared something on his Twitter from Alderman Cox, and essentially Alderman Cox is and Mayor Lightfoot's office are shutting down any discussion regarding the Majostee All Stars Youth Center in Auburn Gresham because Jamal is too critical of the city. I'm going to go to the Sun-Times article and share it with you all. Political feud escalates between Mayor Lightfoot and activist Jamal Green. Planning and Development Commissioner Maurice Cox now cites Green's criticism of a plan for a new Boys and Girls Club on the Police and Fire Academy campus as a reason to block a youth center Green wants built in Auburn Gresham. And this comes to us from Fran Spielman at the Sun-Times. And again, I shared the other story about Alderman Gardner because there's an unfortunate attitude on the side of our city planners, aldermen, elected officials that we're all just supposed to shut up. And I don't know if all of you saw us cover on a previous show where Jamal had attended a press conference where Mayor Lightfoot essentially denied any knowledge of communication with Jamal regarding the youth center that his group is trying to get going on the southwest side. And Jamal was at the press conference and visibly angry. And I can understand his anger when the city, the alderman, the mayor don't really seem to want to take any input from our constituents or people who've been invested in bringing change through the initiatives that they're presenting as Jamal has with the Majostee All Stars Center. Anyway, I'll continue Fran Spielman's article. Mayor Lori Lightfoot has a new reason for putting a brick on the $15 million youth center the community activist Jamal Green is trying to build in Auburn Gresham. Planning and Development Commissioner Maurice Cox is now citing Green's outspoken criticism of the mayor's plan to locate Chicago's first new Boys and Girls Club in a generation on the campus of the Police and Fire Training Academy being built in West Garfield Park. Green was quoted in the Chicago Sun-Times in May, calling Lightfoot's decision to lease 20,000 square feet of land to the Boys and Girls Clubs of Chicago a, quote, slap in the face to black youth. The $1 a year lease for 75 years is sugarcoating a plan that is due to fail, referring to the controversial training facility, Green noted, and the real investment is going to police. That same day, on May 27th, Green sent an email thanking Cox for touring the Auburn Gresham site at 8407 South Kerfoot Avenue, where Green wants to demolish the shuttered Garrett Morgan Elementary School to make way for an 80,000 square foot job training and recreational center tailor-made to help young people avoid becoming perpetrators or victims of gang violence. And Jamal had come on our show last month to go into detail about his plan and what they're proposing, which I think is magnificent. Cox replied he would be happy to continue the dialogue we started in Auburn Gresham if only Green would essentially learn to keep his mouth shut. Parallels to Alderman Gardner shutting down his constituents on his social media? I think not. Your comments only undermined another potential partner, the Boys and Girls Club, in your youth-related efforts, Cox wrote. Before I attempt to engage, you'll need to figure out if your calling is to partner with the public sector or if you are satisfied with simply publicly criticizing. Let me know. This is City Planning Commissioner Cox and a message to Jamal. The former Garrett A. Morgan Elementary School, 8407 South Kerfoot Avenue, was among 50 Chicago public schools closed in 2013. Jamal Green is part of an effort to acquire the property, demolish the school, and build a new youth center. Green stood his ground. Comments from me should have no bearing on what's best for the community. Are we playing politics here, or are we in this to save the youth? Please let me know, Green wrote. Maybe if the city moved faster on our project, my comments would simply be about the project we're trying to build, is what Jamal responded. Green was a mayoral challenger himself before dropping out and endorsing Lightfoot over Cook County President Tony Preckwinkle in the April 2019 runoff. But it wasn't long before Green was publicly criticizing Lightfoot. The first public break came when Lightfoot proclaimed as a quote-unquote done deal the $95 million police and fire training academy that Green and others called a symbol of Rahm Emanuel's misplaced spending priorities. In fact, Lightfoot said the project needed to be made bigger, better, and undoubtedly more expensive. That was followed by Green slamming Lightfoot's selection of David Brown as Chicago Police Department superintendent, and also what Green viewed as heavy-handed treatment of protesters by CPD officers during civil unrest last summer. Green also slammed Lightfoot's decision to seal off downtown by raising the bridges after protests triggered by the death of George Floyd devolved into 2 devastating rounds of looting. But the very personal and apparently final straw for Lightfoot came last month when the mayor took to Twitter to shoot down what she called homophobic, racist, and misogynistic rumors about her own personal life, of which we also reported on because it was a fascinating rumor that was circulating that it doesn't seem any of our journalists in Chicago actually seem to research to find out if there actually was any truth to it. But in a now deleted tweet for which he apologized, Green declared Lori Lightfoot is resigning tomorrow in a stunning end to her mayorship. The Department of Planning and Development sent a statement to the Sun-Times later Wednesday. Commissioner Cox has made it clear that no individual has a right to special treatment when it comes to the use of public funds. DPD remains committed to supporting neighborhood development and ensuring that all parties who seek to develop in Chicago receive equal and fair consideration through the city's development process. The Police and Fire Training Academy being built in the 4400 block of West Chicago Avenue has drawn opposition from Chance the Rapper, college students in Chicago and across the nation, and local youth organized under the No Cop Academy hashtag. During the countless protests, they argued the money would be better spent on mental health and recreational and educational programs for young people. Last month, Lightfoot and the Boys and Girls Clubs of Chicago responded to those demands, but in a way that infuriated the hashtag No Cop Academy movement. Destiny Harris, a youth organizer for the campaign, said a new Boys and Girls Club of Chicago is a quote-unquote beautiful thing, but not on the site of the academy people are trying so hard to stop. This is strictly a PR move. It's the mayor trying to make this project more palatable so that when youth of No Cop Academy are like, no, we don't want this cop academy, this isn't the best use of $95 million, that we actually look like the bad people, Harris said. Police officers don't make black children feel safe. Now, can you expect black and brown children to come into this space and feel comfortable? So that's the backstory on what we wanted to discuss with Jamal tonight, who unfortunately still is having problems logging in. I've been back and forth with his executive assistant. I'm not sure what the technical issues are on their end, but I also want to mention in prepping for tonight's show, I also invited Commissioner Cox onto the show to have a conversation with Jamal, as he was quoted in the Sun-Times article as saying he would be happy to continue the dialogue they started in Auburn Gresham if only Green would essentially learn to keep his mouth shut. So I did contact Commissioner Cox's office. I invited him to come on, speak with Jamal tonight. The City of Chicago Communications Director did respond to me, Mr. Peter Strazabasco, and he said, Mr. Vassilatos, thank you, but we're going to decline. So where we have Commissioner Cox sharing his opinion with the Sun-Times, and where we have the story of Alderman Gardner shutting down any kind of criticism or discussion on his social media page relating to policies from city council and what the alderpersons are now doing since they passed that statute, I believe, earlier today, as Block Club Chicago reported. We clearly have a real disconnect between our alderpersons, city planners, and Mayor Lightfoot herself. So in light of the fact that, unfortunately, it doesn't look like Jamal can log in, I am going to go to the live chat and share some of your comments and questions, and maybe have more of a conversation with our viewers tonight, which I really haven't had a chance to do, since normally I have a co-host, which I prefer. I don't like being the talking head here on my own. Oh boy, I actually just looked at my face on the camera. I'm looking like a tomato because I've gotten way too much sun. So just realized that, if in case anybody's wondering why I'm so rosy looking. But yeah, Andrew, it is truly unbelievable. We've got Cox, the mayor. We've got Alderman Gardner. We've got many other city officials regarding a lot of stuff that they've been passing without really listening to constituents and citizens in Chicago. I see Lainie's with us in the chat. Thanks, Lainie, for jumping on tonight. We were actually thinking of doing a civically minded Chicago show tonight, but I had Jamal scheduled. And we are going to be doing a Chicago edition of Civically Minded this Monday. And on Tuesday, we will be having an episode of Fear and Loathing in the Windy City with Jose Requena. Let's take a look at some of our other comments. Andrew, if they're truly shutting down people for being too critical of the city, that says more about them than it does about the critics. Absolutely. Absolutely. It's really, I don't know, astonishing how tone deaf somebody like Mayor Lightfoot, who ran as a progressive and has literally abandoned all of the promises that she made, from electing having an elected school board to a lot of the other progressive platforms that she set forth. White Sox, my opinion is no matter how many youth centers they make, it won't stop the crime. Well, White Sox, I wonder about that, because if we see the city investing more money into our underprivileged communities and providing more opportunities with youth centers or training centers like the one that Mr. Green is proposing through the Majostee All Stars, which is meant to be a place where kids can learn a lot of different things, not just learn how to be firemen or cops, with Mayor Lightfoot's proposal, I think it's a step in the right direction. And I think I've talked about this before in the past. People blame the police for all the crime in Chicago. You can't really blame the police, although I don't know that they necessarily help the problem when so many situations seem to be a matter of escalation rather than de-escalation. But I don't know, White Sox. I would respectfully disagree. I do think you have a point as far as here you also added they need stricter laws with these repeat offenders. Maybe, yeah, but that's a whole other can of worms as far as like how serious are the crimes. I mean, I don't disagree with you when it comes to violent offenders. Other crimes that are happening that are victimless, you're adding more prisoners into our jail system than actually investing in the community to maybe provide better opportunities. I don't know. That's an interesting one to debate. Whatever, man. Absolutely. Jobs with a living wage. I cannot agree with you enough. I've talked about this with many of my co-hosts in some of our other previous episodes, and this is constantly a topic with Kit and Daniel and Lainie and Kira over on Hardlands Media in their nightly national coverage. I think that so much starts with giving people a living wage, giving people an opportunity to actually earn something that's going to get them out of literally poverty level jobs or living conditions, along with Medicare for all, which I think is a right, not a privilege. White Sox. I think Lightfoot and Fox should be fired. They do no justice to our people, police officers, or citizens. I can't disagree with you. The fact that Mr. Strasabasco responded that, they're going to decline coming on to talk with Jamal tonight. Look, I know we're a small show. We're not a big deal. We're this little channel here on YouTube, but we are trying, and I would have provided a completely civil, equitable platform for Commissioner Cox to really discuss this with Jamal. I don't understand why the city wouldn't look at an opportunity, since it's literally been like a shouting match and a public I don't want to call it a playground fight. I think that Jamal's issues and the issues regarding the youth center are very serious. But yeah, I And I have to say, I kind of expected that response as much as I really hoped Commissioner Cox would come on tonight and have a discussion with Jamal, with both men being able to express their positions and why, and argue their points of view regarding whether or not the city has really been listening to people with putting the youth center on the fire and police campus, as opposed to what the Majostee All Stars are proposing. And also, in our show notes below, we do have a link to the petition that I hope all of you will sign to support the Majostee All Stars initiative that Jamal has been working on so diligently with his group. Andrew Golick, livable wage, jobs, schools, affordable housing, etc. If people are not in desperate situations that will reduce their likelihood of being involved in crimes. Yeah, that's what it's all about. We talk about this a lot with the diversion of city TIF funds that are in the mayor's slush fund to the richest neighborhoods, or specifically the Loop area, not going into the neighborhoods that desperately need those funds to improve conditions, to hopefully provide more opportunities, jobs, and education in light of the desperate circumstances in what is pretty much, I believe, the most segregated city in the world. Hate to say that, but it's true. As a lifelong Chicagoan who spent a little bit of time in California before I came back, this has always been the most segregated city in the nation, I believe. I had an opportunity myself when I was working on Amara Enya's campaign. This is back in 2015. I spent a lot of time on the South Side helping cover her campaign, helping produce media, and I was awestruck at how beautiful the South Side of the city was, but how little traveled it is by North Siders like myself. I really love the South Side. I love Hyde Park. I love the architecture, the culture, the community down there. And when you realize how many people really haven't had an opportunity to spend time down there because of this racial divide in our segregated city, it's really tragic, because you can only bring the city together and get us past this racial divide. I think it would make a big difference, especially in how the mayor and City Hall and our city council are not doing more to help those neighborhoods when we talk about crime. So, Lainie, thank you for joining me tonight. And this is what we're going to cover on Monday's show. She'll be sharing detailed information about the city's resources in case of summertime weather emergencies. Very, very important. I understand that we had a earthquake, I think, down in I don't know, Lainie, if you can chime in here. You mentioned it to me that there was at St. Louis that we were able to feel up here in Chicago. And I know that there have been earthquakes in the past that Chicagoans have felt. I didn't feel what happened the other day, but I thought it was interesting when Lainie brought that to my attention, and we decided that on this Monday night show of Chicago Civically Minded, we'll be talking about city's resources in case of summertime weather emergencies. Jim Cree. The city could buy up all the foreclosed homes and then offer them as some kind of Homestead Act 2.0. Jim, that's too logical and just too goddamn simple, right? You'd think that all the good ideas that come from people like yourself, it would kind of maybe come from all of these intelligent alderpersons that we elect. But sadly, yeah, especially when you consider our homeless population living in tent cities and under bridges all throughout the city. Unknown space pioneer. Gang violence is fostered by the police, so I agree with the statement that no matter how many youth centers you build, the cops will be out there to undermine. Yeah, I think this is part of the culture we've talked about in the past. And, you know, I've said it before and I'll say it again. I've got a real respect for law enforcement. I think it's a privilege to serve in law enforcement, but I think too many of our officers who think they're above the law and who break their code, amongst other good officers who don't report them and stand by silently, speaks to the fact that, yeah, they are undermining things, because there does seem to be a us versus them mentality, when I think if you're in law enforcement, it should be we're all together in this. But hey, I'm just a big mouth on YouTube, was given an opportunity to host Chicago Corner, so what do I know? So Andrew Golick responded to White Sox, and this is a good debate. I really enjoy being able to go back and forth with our viewers in the live chat. Andrew asks White Sox, I think you're adding more fuel to the fire by wanting harsher penalties. White Sox responds, if the crime continues, of course, the cops will be on it. That's their job. I feel the laws for repeat offenders or inmates should be stricter to save our city. She don't care. Jim Cree, stop bulldozing houses. Andrew, I agree, Jim Cree. Why don't they use that for gentrification as well? White Sox says they need 1,000 youth centers then. And if they do, why can't we find the money to fund that? Instead of building a brand new state lake station by the Chicago Theater using federal funds. I know those federal funds are earmarked for specific infrastructure, but when you look at the federal funds that they go after that are earmarked specifically for infrastructure programs that only beautify the loop, and White Sox says they need 1,000 youth centers, then hey, I'm all for a youth center in every ward of the city. Why can't they find the money for that? Because Chicago ain't broke. It's not. Jim Cree, I agree. Officers who can de-escalate things are saints. I've shared this story a couple times. I remember during the Floyd protest last year, there was a police captain in Minnesota who came out and spoke to the rioters. He spoke to them, not at them. And he expressed his empathy and he expressed his frustration. And he didn't escalate the situation, and he essentially de-escalated in one part of Minnesota during the riots, what could have been another really unfortunate, tragic situation. And I wish I had that police captain's name, but that's an example that I like to cite that we talk about. Officers de-escalating things, talking to citizens, not at them, or ordering them because they've got a gun and a badge. See here. White Sox. Carjacking shootings, they are most known to happen in the east side of Chicago, and it's becoming worse. These people do not care about anything but what they can have for free. I think that's kind of a broad stroke. I'm certainly not condoning what's going on. But again, when you've got communities that don't need a hand out, they need a hand up. And a lot of that comes from reopening schools, investing in these youth centers, trying to invest in the community. You know, maybe I sound Pollyanna about it. Maybe I sound a little bit naive, but whatever we've been doing all this time hasn't been working. So maybe it's time to do the opposite and see what happens. Andrew Golick, good point. Why do you think that is? Have you considered the state of unemployed and unemployed people? I mean, that was just escalated with COVID this past year, and certainly didn't help the situation. Very good point from Unknown Space Pioneer. If you want police to be part of the community, they need to be from that community and be held accountable by that community. Couldn't agree more. I know that Chicago officers are required, CPD officers are required to live in the city, but wouldn't that be an initiative to have officers policing specific wards that actually live in those wards? I think that would foster a lot more goodwill, especially given that they know what the conditions are like in those wards, and recruiting and trying to train from within those wards to bring police and residents together. White Sox. No, I don't consider unemployment because everyone rather be on unemployment and drugs rather than work. That's what I completely disagree with you on that. I don't think anybody wants to live on unemployment. You know, you're broad stroking there. There are a lot of bad apples. I'm not okay. Yeah, there are a lot of bad apples, but what are you going to do in punishing the whole lot of people who are unemployed through no fault of their own, whether they lost their jobs during COVID or whether they don't have the education or opportunities that are not available to them in the communities that they live in, that they grew up in, they may have been born into. I just think that that's, White Sox, I don't want to come down harsh on you, but I think that when we broad stroke like that, instead of putting ourselves in the shoe, I don't know what part of the city you live in. Well, obviously, I'm guessing you live on the South Side. Fair enough. I don't know your background. I don't know your family history, but I think so much more can be accomplished if you can kind of step out of your own shoes and put yourself in the shoes of other people, that you're broad stroking here and recognize, no, everyone doesn't want to be unemployed. Of course, there are bad apples that want to be unemployed and take advantage of the system, but that's not everybody. And to just focus on the bad apples, the minimum bad apples that are taking advantage of the system because there aren't more job opportunities or they don't have the education or training to get the kind of work that would pay them a living wage, I just fundamentally disagree with you on that. And we can agree to disagree respectfully. Yet everyone blames CPD. White Sox, I'm curious, are you with CPD, or do you have family or friends that work in CPD? And if you do, I'd love to hear a perspective from that faction. If you do know people who work in CPD, because it seems that you're of the opinion that law enforcement is being bullied. I'm for law enforcement too. I agree with what you're saying. Okay, that's fair. I appreciate that. I think that one of the things I like trying to explore here on Chicago Corner, whether I have a co-host or not, or I'm sitting here musing by myself, nothing is black and white. And I'm not talking about the color of our skins. I'm talking about issues. There is so much gray area in what we're discussing here with crime, police escalation, police de-escalation, city alder people or the mayor choosing their priorities that don't benefit the crime-stricken areas of the city because they don't have the infrastructure or the funding to provide more opportunities or training or education for the residents of those communities. Andrew Golick, my father's cousin, was in the CPD and he was very racist. That's sad to hear. I really wish that our police officers weren't. I'm sure there are many that aren't. Okay, I'm not going to broad stroke and say all cops are racist and all cops are bad. That's not my position. Unfortunately, in this age of cameras and people being able to record anything with their iPhones, we're seeing what we didn't see before, which is why we kind of have to hold that faction accountable. And I don't want to kind of go off into a tangent on police violence when we were really here tonight to talk about Jamal Green's issues with the mayor and the Majostee All Stars Youth Center on the South Side. I haven't gotten any input from Jamal's executive assistant, and he has not been able to log in. I apologize profusely for what I hoped would be another wonderful conversation with Jamal this evening, and I'm just assuming that depending on what the technical difficulties were, we can resolve it and have him on again perhaps next Friday. I really want to talk with him about these recent developments as they relate to Commissioner Cox, as well as what's happening on his end with other support Majostee All Stars is getting for the Auburn Gresham Youth Center in light of the fact that the city's plowing forward with their plans to put the money into the Police and Fire Academy, putting the Boys and Girls Club Youth Center on the Police and Fire Academy site. Let's look at some of our other comments. E. Heller, thanks for joining us tonight. Had a wonderful opportunity to have Ed join me on the show last Friday. I hope many of you saw Ed. He's our resident moderator over on Hardland Corner, talking with Ed about stories we covered last week. So Unknown Space Pioneer chimes in. The problem is for decades, an infrastructure plan from the federal to state and local governments has been superseded by a military budget. We don't care about improving our surroundings as a country. And White Sox adds, because all these politicians are pocketing the money. Of course they are. I mean, all we need to do is follow so many progressive YouTube shows, commentators covering our elected representatives who are doing more to serve their donors and their lobbyists than the people who they're supposed to represent. I've started calling this the CSA, the corporate states of America, because it's not the United States of America. Corporations, Wall Street, the pharmaceutical and medical insurance cartels, as I like to call them, they're the ones that own our elected officials' asses along with the rest of us. White Sox. Well, I come from law enforcement. I tip my hat to you on that. That's a very dedicated profession, and I know it's not easy. I am not racist, but I do believe racism will never go away either. Well, that's what we're here to talk about and try to change. Who gives a shit what the color of a person's skin is? I've seen amazing photographs, memes on social media, Facebook, Twitter. Beautiful photos of 4 to 5-year-old white and African-American children playing. They don't see each other's color. Racism is unfortunately a learned stigma, a learned prejudice. And when you see children at such an innocent age getting along with each other, you really have to wonder, like, at what point do some of their attitudes change? And obviously it's depending on the households they're raised in, societal influences, experiences. So yeah, White Sox, to your comment, I'm not racist, but I do believe racism will never go away either. Sadly, yeah, it might not, but the less we look at each other as the enemy, or the less that some law enforcement looks at some of the people in these communities that they're policing as the enemy and more as victims, or our city council or our city municipal government spends more time on infrastructure or trying to solve these problems rather than give the majority of our COVID relief last year to pay for police overtime. I think it all comes down to what we keep harping on, which is priorities. Andrew Golick, this is a nice conversation, I think, amongst all of us. Andrew Golick says to White Sox, I think you need to open your eyes and stop listening to what the rich and privileged say about the unemployed and underemployed. Yeah, we're dealing with class warfare right now. We're dealing with the greatest wealth divide since the Gilded Age. And it's interesting because Daniel Lupker of Hardlands Media and I had an opportunity to talk on the phone the other night, which is what precipitated me inviting him on the show next Friday to talk about just this issue. Because after I spoke with Daniel, I said, damn, man, that's a podcast. Why don't you come on the show? I haven't had an opportunity to have a good conversation with you about this kind of stuff. And he agreed. We are looking at literally in our society right now, whether it has to do with union busting, income inequality, Wall Street and the 1% owning so much of the wealth. This is what it was like during the Gilded Age before the Great Depression. I remember growing up, privileged on the North Shore. I went to New Trier High School before I ended up going to Columbia College to pursue my my passion for filmmaking and media. But I got a really good education at New Trier. And one of the things I came out of New Trier, especially from a historical perspective, studying history was wow, thank God for civil rights. Thank God that we've evolved as a country, as Americans, to embrace civil rights, focus more on equality. I mean, remember, this was back in the 1980s when I was in high school, but I was looking forward thinking, wow, we're evolving, we're changing, we're moving forward, more equity, more opportunities for people. I never imagined in the 21st century that literally we've taken steps back. And people of my generation that I went to school with are just as guilty of this, perpetuating this as far as how deregulations and how our elected officials embrace the donor class, embrace Wall Street and corporations, do their bidding, where we are right now, where we're literally fighting for $15 an hour minimum wage, which should be $25 an hour if it's going to keep up with the cost of living. Medicare for all, which every industrialized country in the world looks at America and they're like, you're out of your goddamn minds. How is it that you've got literally a mafia that is brokering what doctors can treat you, what kind of coverage you can have? You pay into this insurance system that if you don't read the fine print, even though you're paying your premiums, they can still deny you care. It's insanity. It's Darwinism, quite frankly. Let me go back to some of our comments. Let's see here. We're getting more into the police. Andrew Golick had talked about stop listening to what the rich and privileged are saying. White Sox. Sorry, your cousin is racist. That's him, not all CPD. Okay, I don't think all CPD is racist. I can agree with you there. So Ed Heller is joining in and saying that E. Heller is fantastic in that he helps us curate stories to cover on the show that are related to so much of what we're talking about. Alderman Rosana Rodriguez, public safety looks like having permanent government infrastructure to address public health and social issues, which is what we're talking about. E. Heller, oh, God damn, absolutely. Neoliberal policies brought to us, might I also mention, when the 9-digit midget, Rahm Emanuel, was President Obama's chief of staff, influencing President Obama to go harder right to show how tough the Democrats could be, because Rahm Emanuel's really, a closet Republican and a hardcore neoliberal. And E. Heller shares neoliberal policies gutted government agencies and outsourced essential work to do it on the cheap. As a result, the safety net is police. Absolutely. And those police are there to protect the interests of those with the money. Why do you think that all police during the Floyd riots were pretty much dispatched downtown to to Streeterville? And there was a lot of rioting down there, but there was rioting all over the city. But what came first was protecting the interests of the privileged downtown. Andrew Golick, I can agree that politicians are pocketing the money, but they are also bloating the police budget. They don't need to do that. They need to improve the communities by preventing crime. And this is what defunding the police is all about. Defund the police is not about, let's get rid of police departments and have a free-for-all. That's not what defund the police is about. Defund the police is about, considering the fact that the police budget is probably one of the largest line items in our city budget, diverting some of those funds to what we're talking about with infrastructure, youth centers, infrastructure in our underprivileged neighborhoods, reopening schools that Rahm Emanuel shut down. I can't say how happy I am that son of a bitch is gone. And I'll say it. I'm not going to censor myself. I used to enjoy trolling Rahm Emanuel on social media because he was so awful, and I ended up getting banned from commenting. I just remembered this. Much like Alderman Gardner here, who has a lawsuit against him for preventing people from expressing their opinions on his Facebook page. Rahm Emanuel's office shut me off from being able to comment on the mayor's Facebook page when he was mayor, silencing dissent. Big surprise from the neoliberal authoritarian. Let's see here. Ed Heller. Regular speed Jerry is good too, but 2 times speed Jerry is pretty amazing. I'm not clear on what you mean by that. Am I talking too fast? I probably am. I get that from people. I speak too fast because what's coming in here, I feel like I can't catch up with. I'm afraid I'm going to lose my thought before I can get it out of my mouth. So I apologize if I speak so fast. I'm actually conscious of that and trying to work on it. I need to slow my cadence and be a little bit calmer, right? Exercise more of a broadcasting voice. White Sox, the rich and privileged. Are you being racist because the rich and privileged have? They have because they worked for it. Yeah, some of them have, and some of them also inherited generational wealth. And those with wealth, the privileged, also don't pay their fair share of taxes, with that burden coming down on the rest of us, distributed to the mayor's TIF fund, at least locally here in Chicago. So again, you can't broad stroke White Sox. I really don't think you can broad stroke. Yeah, a lot of rich people do earn their wealth. My brother's an attorney, and he works his ass off to serve his clients. He's very successful because he's got a heart and he really wants to do good by the people he represents. And I'm his older brother, but I look up to him. And I can't tell you how much I look at how much he's accomplished. And my brother and many with his work ethic absolutely have earned their wealth. Okay. But I'm not talking about people in that margin, for lack of a better word. I'm talking about the uber rich. I'm talking about the billionaires who don't pay taxes. I'm talking about the heads and CEOs of corporations who earn more than the workers that are doing the important work of running the companies. So, when we talk about the rich and privileged, that's a very gray area that we can go into, White Sox. And many have worked for it. Many have inherited it. Many have taken advantage of loopholes, not only to hoard their wealth, but not pay taxes on it, while the rest of us are struggling to keep up with taxes that aren't even going towards where they should go. Yeah, Andrew Golick. Not all of them have White Sox. Some of them stole from their very own workers. Sorry that you haven't grasped that. Yeah, E. Heller, if you have $1 billion, you didn't work for that. Absolutely. Absolutely. Let's see here. Yeah, Jeff Bezos. He's a perfect example of that. I think my computer is not buffering. It's like showing comments and then eliminating them. White Sox. Then they should be taxed more than the lower class. Yeah, I agree. That's a lot of what so many progressives are arguing for. Unfortunately, we have our surrender squad and our President Biden that isn't doing that. They don't care. They're there to serve the people who put them there, the rich that aren't being taxed. White Sox, they should be taxed more than the lower class. They should be sorted out. Yeah, it should. Just pray we never go through martial law, because it feels as though that may be the future. Who knows, right? I think we kind of saw something like that during the Capitol insurrection. Yeah. Many looked at that as being a dress rehearsal. Wrong cause, and they shouldn't have been so violent about it. But yeah, people are we're fed up, and I think that the pandemic opened a lot more people's eyes to what we're talking about here. People that were forced to stay at home, lose their jobs, not get paid, have the government not give them the support that they needed to stay home, nor the support to businesses that have gone out of business due too little too late on both Trump and Biden's side. I direct equal blame. Biden's another liar. Trump was horrible. Trump was absolutely horrible in obfuscating and handling things the way he did with Fauci and a lot of the revelations that are coming out now through the congressional testimonies of COVID evolving in a lab. But even after Biden took office, $2,000 checks for everybody, right? Oh, no. We meant $1,400 checks, because Trump, the other president, gave you $600 checks. We have the tape, Joe. We know what you said to help the Georgia elections. He's just a liar anyway, though. I mean, we're seeing this with his backpedaling on public option. We're seeing this with his backpedaling on student loans. But this all goes back to White Sox's point about taxes. Yeah. What else is going on in here? Hey, did Kit join in? There's Kit. There's Kit with Chance the Snapper. I love those emojis. Hey, as much as it was a disappointment that we had difficulties with Jamal coming in tonight, I really am enjoying this opportunity to focus on our live chat and be able to interact with our audience. And I'm willing to go for a little while longer. Let's catch up with some of the comments. Unknown Space Pioneer, people who have become a CIO who have zero IT experience, even on the project management side, favors and connections. Yeah, not going to argue with that. Well, let's be fair. Some do train and some do earn it, but yeah, there's a lot of entitlement that goes to connections and who you know, and them not understanding the important work that lower level employees do to keep these companies successful. Lainie Peterson. Don't forget how redlining kept people from acquiring wealth through home ownership. Yeah. That's something we should talk about on a future episode. Let's see here. Andrew, thank you. I agree. I'm glad we're having this civil dialogue, White Sox. And I also want to say, earlier I mentioned I invited Commissioner Cox on, and, part of me was like, this might become a free-for-all, because I know how passionate Jamal is about what he's attempting to do with the Majostee All Stars Youth Center. But I also, I asked Jamal, I'm like, how would you feel about having Commissioner Cox on so you guys can talk about it? He was all for it. That's when I reached out to Commissioner Cox's office and got them their email declining joining us, even though, unfortunately, we didn't have Jamal on because of the technical difficulties. But yeah, we should be having more civil conversation. That's what this is all about. Whether we agree or disagree, I've always thought of myself as a progressive leaning more left, but I must admit, as I hear myself commenting on what we're talking about, virtue signaling from our city alder people now, proposing things that really don't solve problems, but just make it look like they're solving problems. And I heard myself utter that word, virtue signaling, like, wow, the right seems to use that term more, but it's equally applicable to both sides. E. Heller, on the federal level, taxes serve a different purpose. Never make the inability to increase federal tax on the rich an excuse for Congress not to do things. They issue the currency. Yep. Defunding the police means reallocating funds back to where they stole it from. Yeah. Defunding may mean community policing. Well, I must say, I do know that there are great initiatives throughout our 50 wards where the alder people do work with the local community. They do have community meetings between the residents and the police department, so that there is an element, I think, right now, in at least I'm up in the 50th ward. My elder woman is, why am I suddenly spacing out on her name? Deborah. Oh my God, I'm embarrassed. I'm having a senior moment at 55. Deborah Silverstein. And she regularly has meetings, they call them CAPS meetings, with citizens in the community and the police, so that there is at least an effort to community police with interacting, creating an interaction with residents who are keeping their eyes on things and having a relationship with the local police departments. So let's go back to, God, there's a lot of great conversation in the live stream. This is what I love. I was hoping also if Jamal had resolved the technical issues that we could have gotten some of your questions to him, but let's keep our fingers crossed we can figure out what went wrong and be able to bring him on to next week's show to make up for it. Okay, fair. Not really sure what to say about that, White Sox. I worked for places that enjoyed cutting corners and overstressing their employees, and that's why a lot of people aren't going back to work. I'm sure there are a lot of people who have been taking advantage of the unemployment situation, but when people are making more at home don't want, what they're realizing is they were underpaid to begin with. And they should have earned more before, and they should be earning more to go back, especially at least during this transitionary period where there was a question about people's safety in the workplace. Although, having gone out today, meet a friend of mine for coffee, I am thrilled with how the city has been reopening. It's been fantastic to see people out. I'm assuming and hoping all the maskless people that I'm seeing have been vaccinated. I can only hope that there's some respect there and that they have vaccinated. Yeah, whatever, man. I'm with you. Biden could have given a single payer on day one, but he's owned by the insurance companies. He's owned by the pharmaceutical cartels. Why do you think they fought harder to prevent Sanders from getting the nomination than they ultimately fought against Trump? I think. When you see how the Democratic Party fought more to stop Sanders in 2016 and 2020 for all the things he was proposing to bring us, it's because their donors don't want us to have this stuff. They don't give a shit. Gamer for life. Hey, good to see you, man. Thank you. I am doing well. I really enjoyed going out. I had coffee with a friend of mine today. Just did a lot of errands. I don't know how much any of you know about me and what I do. I am primarily a media professional. I am producer, director. I do some writing, but I also am the inventor of a product that helps people use their canes and crutches on sand. And you'd wonder, how would you come up with an idea like that, Jerry? It's because I'm an amputee and I love to swim. And every time I used to go to beaches, my crutches would sink in the sand with their tips. So I was looking for a product that nobody made about 10 years ago. My dad's an industrial designer, and this story will come around. My dad's a inventor and industrial designer, and he helped me invent what we call the sand pad. And it's an attachment for canes and crutches that widens your base. I wish I had a picture I could bring up. I didn't expect to talk about this, but it allows you, cane and crutch users, you don't have to be an amputee. Anybody uses a cane or crutch to get across sand, as well as wet mud if you're gardening, wet grass after rain, gravel, as well as regular paved surfaces. So our summer season has been exploding. We sell on Amazon. We have a website called easywalkpads.com. And every day I am doing Fulfilled by Amazon. I'm basically sorting through all the orders, packing them, printing the labels, and running to UPS every day here in my neighborhood. I think I dropped off it must have been about 15 orders today, but it's our busy season. So Gamer for Life, as you ask, you hope I'm doing well. I am, especially now that business is booming with my product on Amazon, and it's getting me out of the house to go drop stuff off at UPS before their 5 o'clock deadline. And also enjoying other things now that Chicago's reopened. White Sox. I do not agree with defunding the police. That will not make a difference at all. Okay. It's your opinion. I think we all have them. I disagree, but oh, Lainie, how nice. Very pleasant way to spend a Friday night, isn't it? Chatting with our viewers. I love this. Andrew Golick, I agree with Lainie. And Lainie, I agree. Make that me three. Although, I don't know where Oreo is. He's usually jumping up here. My black and white rescue cat. I've got 3 cats. The other 2 are a little bit shy. They're lounging somewhere else in the house, but usually Oreo will come out and you'll see his tail go across the camera here as he's wondering, what is daddy doing at his desk all the time? I'm going to park my ass on the keyboard. White Sox. Exactly, Jerry. Speaking out about your brother, I agree with you about some people that have worked for everything. Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to disagree with you. I think that there are a lot of people who've worked very hard for where they get in life. But as Andrew Golick mentioned, there are just as many that don't. So, that's that gray area in between the black and white that a lot of people tend to gravitate towards on each end of the spectrum. Andrew adds, White Sox. I also worked for a company that believed that their skilled employees deserved no more than $30K a year, as well as while having absurd premiums. Yeah, right? I prefer to like to use the word it is obscene, because it is obscene that people are not earning a living wage commensurate with the cost of living these days. Unknown space pioneer. Left and right establishment have the same playbook, just have a different book cover. Yeah, you're absolutely right. We don't have blue and red and blue. We've got the Green Party, and I'm not talking about the ones that are progressive. I'm talking about the party of money that drives both sides. We should just call it the one purple party oligarchy. Good live stream. Hey, Kit, thank you, man. I'm looking forward to joining you co-hosting HLM hopefully again in the future when there's a need for it. I really love coming on the national show. You have a good time chatting about stuff and shifting on national news. Chicago Corner will be doing a lot of great things. I hope so. I'm trying to. I'd never imagined I'd be hosting a show by myself, winging it like this, because I always do like having a co-host. But you know what? Tonight, you, the audience, are my co-host. And I welcome you all, and I'm very, very grateful that you stuck with me, even though we had these technical difficulties that prevented Jamal from joining us. Lainie says, I hope that maybe we here at Chicago Corner can host some live in-person meetings as well. Well, we did talk about that at the meetings as COVID passes and the city reopens. Kira had pitched this, and I love it, of us doing some live events and being able to come out different bars and establishments and meeting our audience and answering questions, and maybe even doing a live stream sometime where we've got a live audience being able to ask questions and participate. That's why I don't know who to vote for. They are all criminals, White Sox. I confessed this on the Hardlands national show last week when I was co-hosting with Kit. I didn't vote last election. And I get a lot of criticism from people for that. But it has a lot to do with what you just said, White Sox. I don't know who to vote for. They're all criminals. There's no way in hell I was going to vote for Trump, given what he's not a successful businessman when you consider all of his bankruptcies. Government is not a for-profit institution, which is why you can't manage it like a business, no matter how many politicians tell you it should be. For him to run as a businessman and completely mismanage and be unprepared for the COVID pandemic are some of the many reasons, along with the fact I think he just has no moral fiber whatsoever. He's disgusting. I'm not going to be some moral high ground police. I think we all have things in our lives and our closets, that we're not proud of. But, when you've got, I'm just going to say it, a pig like that who goes and sleeps with a porn star unprotected, right after his wife had his son with her, what kind of a scumbag is that? Really? For those on the right who are religious and conservative and defend this guy, come on. It's just such hypocrisy to claim that this guy is doing the work of the moral class on the right. But there's no way in hell I was going to vote for Biden after they fucked Bernie Sanders a second time. We saw it happen in 2016. It was rigged behind the scenes. We saw it happen in 2020. It was rigged legally with Obama's hand guiding things behind the scenes with the second set of primaries. So, yeah, I don't know who to vote for. We could vote for Green Party. We could vote third party. I know that that's what Kit recommended when we were talking about this, but I'm a little bit more cynical because I know at this stage so far, I don't know how a third party can really win unless there is that big revolution of people coming out. And I think that this is what we're all rallying for on social media and on YouTube with a lot of our progressive shows and commentators that are representing our voices, whether it's Crystal and Sagar over at Breaking Points or our hero Jimmy Dore, or I've been discovering a lot of other really fantastic, or Joe Rogan. I love Joe Rogan's stance. Crystal and Sagar did a great interview with him the other day where they were talking about Joe Rogan's politics, and it's not so much about party, it's about what your beliefs are. And frankly, neither Biden nor Trump represented my values. So why would I vote for the lesser of two evils? You're still voting for evil. I was inside of me thinking, part of me hopes that Trump wins just to drive the left crazy, to show them they can't rig another election and just get what they want. And perhaps another 4 years of Trump would bring about that revolution and change that we needed for a real third party to emerge, since Sanders chickened out in going third party or holding the Democrats' feet to the fire after he endorsed Biden, and then Biden won, and then we've got the progressive caucus that's just been the surrender squad. So yeah, White Sox, it's a tough call. I think we do have a duty to vote. It's a privilege to be in a country where we vote, but when our candidates aren't reflecting our values, I couldn't see rewarding either side. Unknown space pioneer. People's mental health got better who were getting the unemployment. They're questioning waking up the status quo. Absolutely. Isn't it tragic it took a pandemic with millions of Americans dying to forge this reawakening, or force people to look at what's really going on? People who are at home, who were distracted by other things, to perhaps watch more commentary on YouTube, to really have an opportunity to sift through and weigh things on their own. Yeah, I agree with you, Unknown Space Pioneer. You're dead on with that. Yep, and could legalize cannabis, but won't. Yeah, well, we saw how well prohibition worked. When they lifted it, it was a source of taxation that could help solve a lot of other problems. But the argument against legalized cannabis is morality. You've got people who think it's their right to judge and moralize what you and every other American citizen should do, whether it's legalizing pot, whether it's legalizing prostitution, whether it's legalizing what our government calls vices, which is really none of their business so long as people aren't getting harmed, and it's perhaps legalizing these areas so long it's between consenting adults or users that know what the dangers could be of addictions if they do use cannabis. I mean, look, everyone's using cannabis anyway, whether it's recreational or medicinal, and we really need it medicinally. And I would argue that so long as we've got alcohol out there that's legalized, this argument against cannabis is bullshit. And I don't use. I'm not. I've never smoked pot. Don't like it. Don't have a problem with those who do. I just think it smells like shit. That's why, and I have no problem with those who do, though. Nor should anybody else, so long as it's not interfering with or impacting your life. Let's see what else some of our viewers tonight are sharing. E. Heller, he's also clearly needing another dose of whatever brain cocktail his drug company donors gave him during the primaries. I know you're talking about President Biden. He had a moment the other day with reporters that he did apologize for afterwards. I think his handler said, "You got to go out and apologize to the press corps," after which they were fawning all over President Biden. But he had one of those Clint Eastwood "get off my lawn" moments when he was asked some hard questions during his visit to meet with Putin. Yeah, I think it was interesting. You noticed during the election, or when Biden was broadcasting from his bunker in his basement, he just wasn't with it a lot of times. But man, miraculously, when he had to go debate Sanders as well as Trump, man, he was on. And we know the stories of our presidential medical corps that clearly provide the kind of treatment or stimulants to our presidents that the rest of us are disallowed. I mean, just take a look at Trump's eyes during many of his press conferences. They were like, his irises were like this. He looked like he was on speed. Gamer for Life, thank you. Yeah, well, I don't want this show to be about me, but as you asked how things were going with me, I thought it'd be kind of cool to share that. Some of what I'm doing. We all want to go to the beach. Yeah, man. That's why I'm looking like a tomato. I went out today and got more sun than I expected. Kit, Jerry's a lot of done. Well, thank you, Kit. A little self-promotion here. Pat myself on the back. Jerry's done a lot of good work in media. And thank you, Kit. I feel it's a privilege to have joined your team. Let me tell you guys the story about how I came to Chicago Corner. I reached out to Daniel and Kit after discovering them through an interview that they did with Jimmy Dore, who I'm a big fan of. I've made no secret of that. And I really knew nothing about how I'd have an opportunity to work with them, or even I just said, hey guys, I'd like to if you need any help, this is my background. I'm a media producer. Yeah, I do narrative, but I've done some documentaries, but I am a hardcore news junkie. And I've always thought it'd be really cool to be involved with a podcast or a radio talk show talking about the issues. And Kit and Daniel were fantastic about responding to me. I don't know that I expected them to respond just because inquiries from so many people, but I was so grateful that they did. And they said, yeah, we're excited and enthusiastic that you want to participate. And I guess they looked at some of my experience and they invited me in. And Casey, our videographer, also volunteered. We all had this like really cool Zoom meeting. And that was when Allie was the host of the show. And Casey and I had come in to basically provide support for Allie, basically go out in the field. And this was still during the height of COVID when you really couldn't go out in the field, but there were a lot of things happening that we felt were important. And we were all pitching stories to support Allie's efforts at host. And I really liked Allie. I liked what she was doing here with Jose. Allie got busy with her regular job and things kind of shifted. And an opportunity opened up for me to come on and host in Allie's absence. And I was like, yeah, man, this is my opportunity to shoot my big mouth off and have a platform, but not just for what I think, but also to have conversations with people, which I love having, which is what is really cool about tonight, being able to interact with everybody in my audience. Unknown Space Pioneer, Shoe Shoe Cane. Hard for me to, I'm afraid I might bungle something in bringing an image up, but here, go to, I'll type it in the comments. You can visit my product at easywalkpads.com if you're curious. If you know people who use canes or crutches that have mobility issues getting across the sand or any terrain, check out our website. There's a really cool demo video there that I produced. My father is the product model on the single packs. A good friend of mine I haven't seen for a long time, Natalia Gavdyak, was the product model on our paired boxes. You'll see them there on the website. So yeah, I mean, hey, if you want to check out or you know anybody who could use a little assistance with their mobility, they don't have to be an amputee. They can be temporarily using crutches or canes, and it will really help them if they're trying to get across beach or other challenging surfaces. And it also freestands canes, which is really cool when you're not using it on the beach. Yeah, I should be mayor. He knows what he's saying. Thank you, White Sox. I have a lot of people in my family who tell me nobody wants to hear what I have to say. So they do indulge me, but that's very kind of you. Even though we don't agree on everything, I appreciate that you shared that. Let's see here. Oh, Lainie, this shouldn't be the Jerry. Let's compliment Jerry show. That's really cool. Thank you for all the really kind comments from everybody. So yeah, Allie's now on Slow News Day. I guess that her schedule freed her up a little. Her schedule freed up a little bit more, and she's doing some good co-hosting there, which is cool. I follow her on Twitter. I share some things that she shares when I see them on our Chicago Corner page. Yeah, actually, when Allie got busy, I got asked to anchor and host the show. I'm like, I'd love to, and I left the door open. I was going back and forth with Allie. We were communicating, and I said, look, when you're less busy with work, I'd love to have you on again. I mean, I was looking forward to being Allie's co-host, actually, because I really like the way that she guided conversations. So maybe Allie will return sometime in the future. Got to reach out to her and see if she wants to pop onto a show when she isn't busy with Slow News Day. Some of our other comments. Let's see here. I'm going up. There's a lot to keep up with here. Scrolling backward. Wow. This is really great. I think this is the most engagement we've gotten in a live chat for a while. Okay, we've been talking a lot about defunding the police, and I don't want to beat up CPD anymore. They don't have an easy job. I just wish that they would focus more on ways to make their jobs a little easier by de-escalation, and I've talked about that a lot. Kid, I'd like to have you on as a host again soon. Thank you. I can't wait. Location events would be fun from Ed Heller. Gamer for Life. Hey, that would be cool if I had a proper setup. It would be cool to do. So the way that we broadcast here on Chicago Corner, we use a platform called StreamYard, where essentially I can send a guest a link, and you just click on it, you log in, and I bring you on. This is what we had set up with Jamal tonight, but for whatever reason, it wasn't working. And we apologize for that. I feel like really I wasn't false advertising our hopes to have Jamal on tonight, and I do hope that we can sort out what the technical difficulties were and bring him back next week. Lainie, I voted Jerry, but I wrote in. You know what? Yeah. I'm a big fan of Tulsi. My dream ticket would have been Sanders and Tulsi. A lot of Tulsi's platform aligned with Senator Sanders. My long-term dream was that Sanders would win, do 1 or 2 terms, and basically have Tulsi, who had a very similar platform as his, the younger generation, that Sanders could hand it off to. She seemed to be the logical choice. I've got so much respect for that woman as a veteran. She's so smart, and I really hope we haven't seen the last of her. But, man, I felt her pain with the backstabbing of the DNC. They didn't even let her in on the final debates, even though she was still in the race with Senator Sanders and Biden. Just complete disrespect, not only for her as a candidate, but as a veteran who served our country. It's just bullshit, just disgusting. Heller, you and George Carlin had that in common. Carlin said, if you vote, you have no right to complain. People usually get that backwards. Yeah, good point. Let's see here. I still think Bernie could have won if the pandemic hadn't happened. I don't know, Heller, and I'll tell you why. If anything, the pandemic showed everybody why we needed a candidate like Sanders pushing for Medicare for all. People needed the coverage. They needed the government intervention with healthcare. And look, Obama still would have been pulling the strings behind the scenes with Buttigieg and Klobuchar during the second round primaries, as we know he did. It was reported. Obama was on record behind the scenes as saying he was going to step in if it looked like Sanders was leading. And Sanders was leading. Sanders won Nevada, New Hampshire, and Iowa, even though Pete Buttigieg, played that bullshit game of taking away Sanders' thunder by claiming he won. I think it was in Iowa. Yeah. So traditionally, the candidate that wins those first 3 primaries does go on to be the nominee. But once President Obama decided he was going to get Klobuchar and Buttigieg to drop out, who basically had the same constituents as Joe Biden, that's how all the votes went to Biden. And Biden still thinks he won it because of his charm. Had all to do with Obama. And then their anointed candidate, who couldn't get one goddamn vote, Kamala Harris, who's the one they really wanted to go in because that's the one they knew they could control, curiously gets selected as his vice presidential nominee instead of Stacey Abrams, who did so much for the Democratic Party. Look, when I've said this before, and I mean no disrespect, but when Joe strokes out, Kamala's in position to be installed. She's who they wanted from the beginning. She's Obama in a wig. She's Barack Clinton. She's Hillary Obama. She stands for nothing. She'll do anything to get in and stand for nothing. And so going back to your point, E. Heller, I think Bernie could have won if the pandemic hadn't happened. I respectfully disagree, only because I think the pandemic showed why we needed a candidate like Sanders, whose platform included Medicare for all, that everybody was rallying behind. And even in the midst of a pandemic, we are still denied it. Let's see here. Going down the comments. I better support the Volcano Party. Yeah. Throw them all in a volcano. I don't know how many of you saw the TV show Designated Survivor. It had 2 successful seasons, I think, on ABC, and then went over to Netflix. Kiefer Sutherland basically played the Secretary of Education who is the designated survivor in the case of a disaster if something happens to Congress. And the first episode of the show was Congress getting destroyed as a result of a terrorist incident. And I thought, whoa, that's pretty freaking hardcore to be able to represent on a TV series, wiping out Congress. And then I thought, this is wish fulfillment for whoever the producer and showrunner was. And it's a fascinating premise. You know, we do have a designated survivor in case something happens to Congress. I guess maybe I shouldn't speak too much about this. I don't want to get a visit from the FBI as if I'm advocating for it. But, you know, the platform of the Volcano Party is to throw Congress into a volcano. So that whole premise reminds me of Designated Survivor. Lainie, I love Joe Rogan. Yeah, I love him too, man. He's honest. He just goes on there and represents like the little guy. He's got a big heart. I don't agree with him on everything. I really love when he has people like Sagar and Crystal on, as he did this week, and then Kyle Kalinske, who I also love. Kyle's another great progressive, and just that whole little family of, along with Jimmy Dore, of real progressives. I know Jimmy comes across as abrasive to some people. I think, man, that's exactly what we need. We need radical, abrasive talk, because when you ask for it and you ask for it and you ask for it quietly and respectfully, nothing changes. And I'm not out there for radical change that includes violence, but when you don't feel like you're being heard, that's when you got people like Jimmy Dore who are completely, I think, channeling a lot of the things we feel like we don't have a voice in expressing. Lava-based solutions are the best solutions. No argument there. Going back to the Homestead Act, Jim Cree, and the Homestead Act 2.0 can say live in the house for 5 years, fix it up, weatherize it, set it there, it's used for a token sum. Makes sense to me, man. Jim, what's your background? Maybe you should run in your district or in your ward. Get a start on getting in of course, it takes money to run. Somebody once asked me, they said to me, oh, Jerry, you should run for alderman in your ward. I'm like, yeah, sure. You're going to support the money or the campaign. It takes money to run. I think that's the other thing is that whole other issue of getting money out of politics. You know, that's why a lot of decent people don't run. They can't afford to. And when you see how the donor class influences who wins and who they give their money to, it's just to keep the status quo. Look, I don't know what the answer is. I think that so much has to do with getting money out of politics. And I mean, we have seen some good candidates come out that were able to raise the money to run and get some attention based on a worthwhile platform they had to share. Not all candidates have a lot of money, and a lot of candidates are able to capture the imaginations of the voters if they are looking to affect some change that will benefit everybody that we talk about are suffering right now. Let's see. The live chat. Yeah, Gamer for Life, Big Pharma, and the mic keeping it illegal. Wow, a lot of comments to catch up on. President Joe Manchin. Yeah, right? Or how about President Parliamentarian? First it was Mitch McConnell. We can't do anything because of Mitch McConnell. Now it's we can't do anything because it's the parliamentarian, and it's Joe Manchin. We have a majority, but we can't do anything because of Joe Manchin. Get the fuck out of here. There's so much the Dems could do to neuter Joe Manchin and get him into line. They just don't want to. They don't. He's convenient. He's convenient to keep that wall of to keep that wall up so that they don't have to fight for more for Medicare for all and a living wage, $15 an hour. Let's see here. I was calling him Hologram Joe when he broadcast from his basement. Sleepy Joe. Get off my lawn. Get off my lawn, man. Here's the thing. Here's the thing. His trademark quote. Oh boy. A lot of great commentary back and forth tonight. So I just got a text message, and it just came from, let's see here, Jamal's executive assistant. They could not overcome the technical issues that they had on their end. Can we reschedule for next Friday? Thanks so much for your flexibility. That's from Aviance Cobb, who is Jamal's executive assistant. My apologies for not being in communication. They were trying so hard to resolve this on their end. So yeah, it looks like we will have Jamal on next Friday. I apologize that there were technical difficulties that came up preventing him from joining us tonight. I think that we'll basically have a rerun next week of me covering the story that we were going to talk about in regard to Commissioner Cobb and Commissioner Cox, and restarting the conversation as it relates to our city officials want to put the hammer down on dissent and criticisms. Whatever, man, you are right. Jimmy Dore is pounding the door where people are tired of knocking. I couldn't agree with you more. And we here at Hardlands Media and Chicago Corner are adding to that knocking and pounding. Yeah, Lainie, I kind of called, I reached out to my Hardlands team tonight on Slack in a panic. Jamal can't log in. I don't have a backup. And then I thought on my feet, well, here's my opportunity to engage with you, the audience, and have a conversation with all of you co-hosting. And maybe we can do this again. We can select some topics. Actually, here's what I'm going to put out here as we kind of bring the show to a conclusion, because we're almost at an hour and a half, although I could go longer, but actually I haven't eaten, so I am a little hungry. This is what I want to tell you all to do. Okay. My email address is jerry@chicagocorner.tv. You know, we're also on Twitter at Chicago_corner, and we're also on Facebook. I would like to do another live chat like this in the future based on the suggestions you, my viewers, share with me. Write me. Hey, Jerry, can we all talk about this one night? Can we talk about that one night? Send me your suggestions, and I think that a really cool show we can do regularly. It doesn't necessarily have to be on Friday nights, because I do like doing the Friday news wrap-up and having a co-host on to talk about news, or a guest, special guest like Jamal. But maybe we can select the night of the week to just do viewer live chat on stuff and topics that you guys want to see us all talk about. So please email me at jerry@chicagocorner.tv. And I will absolutely look into how we can make this a regular ongoing segment where we can just have a show that's live chat and talk about stuff, field questions you guys want to talk about. White Sox, thank you. My prayers. Take care, everyone, and hopefully things change. Chicago needs it. Yeah, I agree. Let's wrap up some of our other comments here at the end here. Gamer for Life. Yeah, I hope to get interviewed by you in the future, Jerry. Hey, so Gamer for Life. Yeah, send me what you want to talk about. Send me some of your background, and let's see how we can integrate that in a live stream. Thank you. The Chicago native scene, absolutely. Well, you know, we had a writer and podcaster from Bridgeport, Mars Messina, on a few Sundays ago to talk about two of her books and her podcast. So when we talk about Chicago native scene, if there's stuff from any Chicago natives, residents, stuff you want to share, what you're doing, yeah, again, jerry@chicagocorner.tv, email me, or send me a tweet at Chicago Corner. I'm going to bring our show to a close. So let me really quickly ask you all, if you enjoyed what we did tonight, please like and subscribe. We want to do this more in the future. Share our channel with your friends, your family, those that we hope would also appreciate what we're trying to do here on Chicago Corner, bringing all of our 50 wards together. like and subscribe, share the links. If it's happening on the street, you'll hear about it here on Chicago Corner. So I want to let you all know what's coming up. Monday night, we'll have a special edition of Chicago Civically Minded with Lainie Peterson. Tuesday night, we're going to have Fear and Loathing in the Windy City with Jose Requena. And next Friday night, I had Daniel Luker tentatively booked from Hardlands Media, so we could talk about how we're in a time machine back to the Gilded Age. But now that I've got Jamal needing to reschedule since they had the tech issues tonight, we'll bring Jamal on next Friday. But I'm definitely going to figure out when I can schedule to bring Daniel on, because I'd love to have a conversation with him that's not on the phone, that we, at the end of the call, we're like, geez, man, that should have made a live stream. That would have been a great conversation. So I want to wish everybody a happy Friday. I want to wish everybody a happy Juneteenth. I want to wish everybody out there with kids a happy Father's Day. I'm very excited. I'm going to be spending my Father's Day with my dad, who's 83 years old. He's turning 84 this year. Lucky to have him. He helped me design my product, the sand pad, which is at the Easy Walk sand pad for cane and crutch users. It's at easywalkpads.com. Link is in the live chat. If anybody out there could benefit from that. Spend some time with your dads if you still have them, everybody, this Sunday. For those of us who are still lucky to have our dads in our lives, and I'm very grateful I've got both my mom and my dad still in my life, and I can't imagine what it would be like without either of them. Treasure them. Spend some time with your family. Be safe. And I look forward to doing another live chat with everybody in the future. Thank you for sticking with me tonight, even though we had the technical difficulties with Jamal that prevented him from being on the show. He will be on next Friday. This was a wonderful opportunity for me to engage with you, the audience, and I look forward to doing it again soon. So stay safe, Chicago. Have a good night, good weekend, and I look forward to seeing you all again soon. Take it easy.